Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is part of Court and Parts,
podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows: Geek Gravy, We Got 5, TV Ate My Brain, and Get Real Movies at courtandparts.com.
Liar.
Wes Craven dedicated his life to fear and making it just a little harder for us to shut our eyes at night. Classic horror films like Nightmare on Elm Street and Serpent in the Rainbow.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
Terrorized generations.
I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
The slasher Scream series redefined the genre. They became blockbusters. The original grossing more than $100 million in the U.S. Throughout his dozens of films, Craven blurred the lines between reality and fantasy in ways that few could match.
Audiences don't pay me to scare them so much as address their fears.
A Cleveland native, Craven made his impact with his first film, The Last House on the Left, in 1972, which he wrote, directed, and edited.
You open this door, Krueger!
Later, it was Freddy Krueger and his famous knife-fingered hands in 1984 that made him a superstar.
Who are you?
Remember me?
Craven said he got the idea for Elm Street while living next to a cemetery while growing up.
We submitted to the MPAA, and they demanded so many cuts, we finally put all the material back in and just released it. And if we did that today, we'd be hauled off in chains.
Throughout his career, Craven also had an eye for new talent. Johnny Depp, Sharon Stone, even Bruce Willis were featured by Craven early in their careers. Craven succumbed to brain cancer in Los Angeles Sunday night. He is survived by his wife and 3 children, 3 grandchildren. Wes Craven, dead at 76 years old.
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake, the podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray number 10 is here. The voice you hear in the intro is the beautiful bride of Bloodbath. I, of course, am that son of a dad, Bloodbath. Thank you for listening. And with me is Brett667. I should let you guys just introduce yourselves. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm that dad of an offspring. That would be Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
And I'm also a dad. I'm Bub.
We have kids.
Thank you guys for listening. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is the official horror podcast of the Core Temp Arts Network. We talk about horrors, thrillers, dark comedies. We have room in our lives for some sci-fi as well. Movies, shows, comics, you name it. We scope it. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. Thank you all so much for the support. Support us more by spending nothing. Just rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or YouTube. Hit us up with emails at bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Get active with us. Bub's going to start us off with some killer news, man.
All right, man. So I was reading a bunch of things this week. They're actually changing. They're turning the gas station from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre into like a place that you could stop by, like a roadside attraction. So this guy, Roy Rose from Ohio, he bought the gas station back in like 2014. Now he's building cabins behind it. So he's got a barbecue restaurant. They got like, a souvenir shop, and you could spend the night at this place.
That's wild.
Sweet.
Oh, it's going to be so good. It opens October 8th this year.
And that's in Austin, right?
I believe so.
Road trip.
Gotta go.
We're gonna do a road trip. I think we should do a road trip at some point. That would be a great place because I think that's probably a top 10 movie for all 3 of us. I think.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's trying to start hosting horror conventions there too, like outdoor horror conventions.
Yeah, that's right in my wheelhouse, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing I got in news is there's this guy from the UK named Peter Bayliss. And he just received 18 months probation and 160 hours community service for showing a 6-year-old Night of the Living Dead.
I heard that story.
No shit.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. That's kind of fucking crazy.
Right?
Yeah, that's wild. I'm probably gonna go to jail for a very long time then.
Well, this guy Peter Bayless, he didn't like show this kid Night of the Living Dead just recently. Like, he did it 20 years ago, and now this girl's 26 years old, and it's like, yeah, I'm all screwed up from it. Now she's like, bringing him to court.
That's wild.
It's insane.
That sounds like she's fishing
That
for a
just
reason.
doesn't even register with me.
I mean, you do
It's just
bad
such
stuff to kids, you got to pay for it.
But like, did Night of the Living Dead really screw her up? I mean, really? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't voice my opinion on this.
I don't know, man.
It's a tough call.
When I was a little kid, I walked in on my mom watching the Thriller music video from Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember how creepy he looked to me at a young age. And I'm fucking fine, man. I don't skin it.
It's funny. My dad and I were talking yesterday, and he was asking me about Stranger Things, and he's like, if it's horror and stuff, I don't want to watch it because I don't like that stuff. And I was like, well, the monster in Stranger Things is no scarier than any of the aliens in Independence Day. It's really not. And he's like, oh, okay, then I'll probably watch it. And I was like, and I saw Silence of the Lambs because you had it. I saw The Exorcist because you had it. And what was the other one I said to him? Trying to think off the top of my head. But all those movies, like all the horror, and The Shining too. Did I just say that? I don't know.
No.
But all those movies I saw because my dad had them. The first Blu-ray, or not Blu-ray, the first DVD that my parents bought was like The Exorcist. So I don't know how he doesn't like horror movies. But regardless, none of those movies screwed me up. I don't know, man. Return of the Living Dead was one of the first ones I saw on TV. And that one actually gave me nightmares. But it didn't ruin my life. It just gave me nightmares for like 3 days. Or a week. Maybe a month. maybe
30 years.
Maybe 30 years. But it didn't ruin my life. I'm perfectly functioning adult. Anyway, what else you got?
All right, so they're trying to remake the Friday the 13th movie, but it just got halted in its tracks this week because I guess the original screenwriter, he's got a lawsuit going against the new guys who are trying to make it.
Victor Miller.
Yep. He's got them in court in Connecticut right now.
Jeez. Yeah, it's because he wants to basically be like an executive producer and spend all the money, but then make all the money because that's what producers do.
Well, the way they're fighting him, they're trying to say that he was a hired hand. Like producer Sean Cunningham kind of brought him on. Like, hey, the Halloween series is doing so well. I need you to write a script like that for me. Mm-hmm. So there's some loophole where they might win this thing for the fact that he was a hired hand.
Yeah, well, Sean Cunningham was the one that he was the director and the producer. I mean, Victor Miller just created. It's Victor Miller, right? Is that who it is?
I believe so. Yep.
I'm gonna. You want to check that? I could be wrong. I don't want to say the wrong. I've been doing that a lot lately, where I get my names mixed up. But yeah, I mean that makes sense. He wasn't part of any of the. I don't think he was part of any of the documentaries like Crystal Lake Memories or anything like that. So, or his name was Jason.
Yeah. It's Victor Miller. Victor Miller was the screenwriter. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah. I hope he loses. I would love to see a new Friday the 13th movie. I wasn't a huge fan of the last one, but it seemed like they had a really good team for this one coming out, if memory serves me correctly. I'd have to look it up real quick, but I remember reading it and thinking that it was going to be an interesting film. Let me see here, because I actually had that saved. Lawsuit over. You got that off iHorror, right? Yeah, the guy who directed Prisoners was going to direct this, and I love that movie.
That was a great movie.
And Breck Eisner he wrote the Crazies, the remake, the George Romero remake. The remake was actually better than the movie, and I thought he did a really good job. So it was definitely something that I was interested in. I hope it turns out. What else you got?
Did you see that link that I sent you earlier with the Freddy glove?
No, I saw the other link that
man.
you sent me with. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. You sent it to me on
Facebook? Yeah. There's or I might have been through a text message.
You sent me in a message.
But yeah. There's a guy who's actually fabricating. He's fabricating like original Freddy gloves, like real knives and everything. You can order the thing for $150 for your Halloween costume.
That's it. Yeah. That looks fucking wild.
I mean, it looks just as good as the original movie. It's crazy.
Yeah. The other link that you sent me for that show, that sci-fi show looks wild.
Oh, Channel Zero! I can't wait to see that.
That looks crazy.
The guy who worked on one of the guys who worked on Hannibal made that show. So it looks like the guy's covered in teeth. You know, It's so creepy. Like he's just sitting at the table with him. And there's another trailer where that kid is feeding it teeth in the woods.
I love those little teaser trailers though that are only like 15 seconds. They don't give too much away, and they usually pick the parts that are like really heightened suspense and stuff. So I thought that was like, that was like a nice little one. You know how people are doing like those tiny like 3-second movies now?
Yep.
That's like a really good example of that. Like I was watching that going, what the fuck? Because when I watch something on sci-fi now, it's almost always guaranteed to be something like Sharknado.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I like those movies just fine. I think they're great, but you know, that's what you come to expect. That's the sci-fi brand. They've gotten better in the last few years, but I'm excited for this. What was the name of that show?
Channel Zero.
Yeah, that looks awesome. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it comes out in a month. It's like September 27th it premieres.
There's so many good shows now, man.
And everything's horror related lately. I love it.
Yeah. It's definitely got me rethinking, because I was all but ready to cancel my cable.
Oh yeah?
And now I'm like, it'd be a bummer, because all of the pirate sites are down. So it's not like I can't get.
What's a pirate site, Brian?
I'm
I've
all
never used
legal
one
now.
What it?
Anyway, is that it?
That wraps it up, man.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Let us know what you think by reaching out to us. We can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook by simply searching Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. To suggest a film or trailer you think we should discuss, or to comment on this or any other episode, send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. We will always get back to you. Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, and enjoy the rest of the show.
So we're finishing up. We're in the final episode of Wes Craven Tribute Month. It's been awesome. I feel honored to have been able to pay tribute to such a wonderful director. His good movies, his bad movies. Of course, we left a ton of movies off. We only covered one movie each week, which means that we can maybe do something again next August. But for now, we're going to talk about The People Under the Stairs.
In every neighborhood, there is one house that adults whisper about and children cross the street to avoid. Now, Wes Craven, creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, takes you inside.
Something's in me.
We gotta get out of here, Leroy.
All sorts of rumors about what goes on in that house. The police never took it serious.
She's been feeding that thing between the walls again.
I'm very, very tense about this.
There must be another way out. can't get out. No one ever has.
What goes on in this house is a sin.
Your father's one sick mother, you know that? Actually, your mother's one sick mother, too.
But what goes on under the stairs is a nightmare.
It is time to clean house! Open the in there! Let's go!
Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs.
Came out in 1991. The budget was $6 million. Box office return was $31.4 million. The naughty count 0. Body count 5. Let's go to Brett for the synopsis.
Well, thank God for a naughty count of 0. But so a young boy growing up in the ghetto. His name's Poindexter, but he is affectionately known as Fool. Is having a rough go. His mother is dying of cancer. He lives in a really shitty apartment complex by some evil landlords that are going to evict him because of missing the rent for 3 days, being 3 days late. So he and what I assume to be his sister's pimp, Ving Rhames, amazing, decide they're going to case the landlord's house, break in, and steal the rumored oodles and oodles of gold coins. But what they find inside the house is absolutely freakish. It is nowhere near their expectations. There are deformed children living in the basement. The mommy and daddy are most certainly not what they seem. Fantastic performances, and which leads up to this little boy who aspired to be a doctor into a cold-hearted motherfucker that gets shit done.
I love this movie. It's one of the first movies I saw on Monster Vision. I saw it on TV when I was like 12 or 13. It scared the fucking shit out of me. Because the first time you see those, the people under the stairs, you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And the parents in this movie are maybe two of the most scariest villains in like any horror movie. I don't know what it is. I can't really pinpoint it. It's just you got such good dynamic performances out of them. And the two actors were Wendy Roby and Everett McGill. They were both on Twin Peaks, so they knew how to work with each other. And they just went all method, and especially Wendy Roby. She put on such a fucking amazing performance. She's the most one of the most terrifying things about this movie.
She's such a psychopath in this movie, man.
I know, man. And she has a shake. There's not a lot of information about this film on like my usual sources like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that. So
I was sad about that as well.
Right. So yeah, obviously you guys noticed. However, I just bought this a couple weeks ago on Blu-ray, and I think it might have been for like the 25th anniversary type thing, and I watched all the bonus features as a result of not being able to find too much information on it. Wendy Roby had like a Shakespearean background, and I think it's funny how these professional actors find themselves in the horror genre. Robert Englund is also like a classically trained actor, you know what I mean? And I think and they obviously they both ended up in a few Wes Craven movies. She got really method with this performance, and she built up like a backstory that her and Everett McGill had killed their parents to become them. And to fill in the gaps for everything that their parents weren't. I thought they were, and they did such a good job. So good.
Oh yeah, when you find out that they're brother and sister, that blew me away.
Right. And they got some great. The both of them have just some wonderful quotes.
Oh yeah.
Bad girls burn in hell. That part where he comes into Alice's room and and the mother is scolding Alice, and he's like, I'm very tense. I'm very tense about this, and like you just know like this is gonna go so badly.
Oh, you have one of your headaches? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everett McGill screams in this movie, like when he's wearing that full bondage suit and just blasting holes in the walls, going down the hallways. They're crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
This makes the second movie featuring Ving Rhames and a guy in an all-leather suit.
That's all I thought when I saw that part. Get out the gimp.
And he's got a couple good lines in this movie too. Maybe the president will make me the secretary of pussy. Like I just
or
when they're sitting in the van.
Yeah.
Or I like my favorite was you too big for the too big for the titty, too little to get laid. So you're fucked.
The leather suit was so creepy that it was terrifying. And and I saw this movie long before I saw Pulp Fiction. I didn't see Pulp Fiction until I was in high school. But I saw it, and it wasn't on TV. They would never put Pulp Fiction on TV or anything. They will now, but they didn't then. I'm just dating myself, but that just added to the level of. It just added a whole nother level of weirdness to a few already extremely weird people. I thought that was so wild. Ving Rhames almost got recast for this movie because he so the part where they have the dad kills Ving Rhames, doesn't know or isn't exactly sure at the point where he kills Ving Rhames, he doesn't know that Fool is in the house. He just knows that Ving Rhames is in the house. So he shoots him like a bunch of times. And then he finds Fool, and they're down like the basement or something. And he's cutting up Ving Rhames and throwing pieces of Ving Rhames to the people under the stairs. The Ving Rhames that's hanging upside down was actually a life cast, so they basically cast his whole body, but he didn't want to do it. And Wes was like, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to recast the part. I kind of called his bluff, and they did it. And apparently that life cast or whatever has been used like a bunch of times in a bunch of different movies. That same one, so they've been selling it and using it in that same company that it's K&B. It's like the three guys that are like the special effects makeup dudes. They've been in a bunch of movies. I'm going to talk about them in a little bit, but they use that thing all the time. It's going to go in like their museum or something if they ever make one.
Who wouldn't want a life cast? That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'd be like, you know what? I get to keep it when we're done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
I'm telling you. I'd be like, one condition, I get to keep it when we're done, and I scare the shit out of everybody around my house with it.
The father cutting up Ving Rhames is fucking terrifying. That shit looked real. The guys who made that life cast were totally talented. And I don't know what Ving Rhames was thinking as far as giving them a hard time, because I don't know where he was in his career. I don't think I'm in the Ving Rhames fan club, but I might be. I mean, it feels real because, like, if I was a 12-year-old kid trapped in that house, I'd be fucking shitting myself if I saw that happening. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so much. The house itself is probably the best character because it's so well designed throughout the movie to be absolutely horrific and frightening and suspenseful, but there's no like rooms that are trying too hard to be scary. It feels like it gets it's like, and you mentioned Silence of the Lambs before, which is actually something I wanted to bring up, was when Fool enters into the air ducts and comes out on kind of the dingy or darker side of the house. I felt a huge connection between that and the ending scene in Silence of the Lambs with the amazing basement in that movie, where the house just had so much mystery and was so deep that I was like, God, I want to walk through this fucking house.
So, to further talk about Silence of the Lambs during People Under the Stairs episode, Wendy Roby, mother, never did a part like this before, but Silence of the Lambs had just come out, and so she modeled how she was going to audition for this part after Hannibal Lecter.
You could see that, definitely.
And I think, and she made herself look crazy for the audition, and she said way crazier than she is, because she looks like when she answers the door and the way that, the things that she says to the police and stuff, it's very Doris Day, you know what I mean? Very Americana. And I think that she killed it.
But yeah, and she killed it, and she definitely looked like Ray Finkel.
she kind of did look like a guy a little bit in certain parts, man.
She looked like Ray Finkel.
So the special effects makeup folks that were involved with this were also involved with Evil Dead 2, which makes a lot of sense. Their names were Robert Kurtzman, Howard Berger, Greg Nicotero. They had a company called K&B, and I'm just going to go over a couple of the things that they've done. They got an Academy Award for The Chronicles of Narnia. They got an Emmy for the 2000 Dune miniseries, and some other notables that they worked on. They didn't all work on it together. Sometimes they just went out by themselves, but the Funhouse Massacre, which I loved, Tusk, It Follows, Green Inferno, Drag Me to Hell, Hostel 2, Planet Terror, 13 episodes of Masters of Horror, 6 episodes of Fear Itself, and The Amazing Day of the Dead. I just picked a handful of ones that I liked. I think each of them is worked on, I think if you combine them all together, it's almost like 500 films or something. It's insane. I mean, the makeup and stuff on these characters was really, really good. Some of the special effects were a little bit hokey, because mainly the dog.
The dog was pretty rough. Yeah,
it was a hand puppet. I don't know that they could have really done anything else, but it's okay. I mean, I sort of knew to look for it, but the first time I saw it, I didn't notice it when I was younger. So I think, and that's what you're supposed to.
I thought the roach sticking his tongue out was like the classic, look how my hand was amputated, even though my sleeve is unnecessarily long. Look how my hand is gone. When Roach sticks the tongue out, I'm like, yeah, that's about the normal length of a tongue when you stick it out. So, right. But it didn't matter because everything else was so well done, and I mean, it still will look better than any CGI that we have today.
Oh yeah, we'll always take real effects over CGI.
Fuck yeah.
So it's funny though, because I mentioned, and we didn't talk about this in the episode where we talked about New Nightmare, but I mentioned in our episode about New Nightmare that Freddy looked like Wishmaster. Mm-hmm. It's the same people that were involved, and Robert Kurtzman, who's the special effects guy, directed Wishmaster, and Wes Craven produced it.
Oh, that makes sense.
So now it all makes a ton of sense. And Wishmaster came out in 1997. Of course, New Nightmare came out in 1994, so they're relatively close together. So that's just a couple of finer points. What were some of your guys' favorite scenes in this movie?
I love when she's cleaning up the blood, and then she throws her in that scalding bathtub.
That's a great
scene. That was so brutal.
Terrible.
You see, even though you can see the steam, it's not really coming out of the bathtub. It looks like it's coming from under the bathtub. It's just it gets in your mind, and you're like, this chick is burning, And she's making her scrub herself.
So that was the first scene that those two shot together.
Oh, good. Good tone to set.
Yeah, they met that day,
Oh my god.
And like AJ Langer, who plays Alice, she was like still relatively new compared to Wendy Roby, and it was like one of those situations where she's like, how are we gonna do this? And she's like, basically we're just gonna scream like two crazy people, and I'm going to throw you in the tub, but I'm not actually gonna throw you, you're gonna throw yourself, and we're gonna make it look like it. They did it all in one take.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, and I guess Wes was really happy with it because that was a scene that he thought was going to cost a lot of money to do because it was going to take a lot of time, and time equals money. But the fact they were able to get it done, and for smaller name actors, if you get the reputation of being able to get through your takes very quickly, being able to work with everybody on the set and behind the scenes very amicably, at the end of the day, you're saving the production budget a ton of money, and that's how you get jobs. If you're a fucking pain in the ass, then nobody's gonna want to work with you because you're not only do you suck, but you're also costing everybody money and time. So that's why Wendy Roby was able to, do things like Twin Peaks. I mean, her career is made by Wes Craven and David Lynch. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Most people will never ever get that. She's already got it, and she has been making a healthy living off of it. I can't say enough how much I loved her performance in this movie. Brett, what was your favorite part?
Well, honestly, it was actually the same exact scene. Was actually what I listed as my favorite. And it wasn't really because of Roby, but AJ, and also kind of piggyback off of that. I think his name is, I might butcher the name, but Brandon Quinton Adams, I think, was the kid who played Fool. I felt like the kid actors really stole the show in, some somewhat veteran actors. And Bub, like you said about that scene, what gripped me the most in the bathtub was AJ, the actress who played Alice, her legitimate fear about getting in that bathtub, and when she gets thrown back into a room and she's beat red from being in steaming, boiling hot water, she conveyed true absolute terror in her face, and it was one of those few moments where I was just like, it was not an actress, it was not an actor, she was legitimately going through absolute hell in that scene, and I was really taken aback by how impressed I was with the acting from AJ and from Brandon, because even Brandon, he wasn't really a fearful character. He was wisecracking. I really don't know how to put it, but I guess he was just kind of a stereotype, but not a stereotype at the same time. And I just thought the child acting was phenomenal in this movie.
He was in the Mighty Ducks movies.
Wasn't he in Sandlot too?
Yep.
Yeah,
he was.
There's the heater.
Yep, there you go.
So my favorite part, I have two favorite parts. I have one favorite part and I have one favorite shot. My favorite part is when Fool gets electrocuted by the doorknob. Not once, but twice. One time he does it on accident. The next time he electrocutes himself to incapacitate the dog that's fighting Leroy.
God, he fucking drops the first time.
Yeah, and it's great.
It is. It's hysterical.
I laughed hysterically when he did it, and then of course he passes the current from him to Leroy to the dog. So everybody understands that would have killed him.
Oh yeah,
because when the current passes through your heart, you die. That's how it works. So most of the time people die when they're on, when they touch something that's electrified, and they're also touching a metal or a conductive floor, because it goes from their hand through their heart out their leg. Your body's creating a ground cable.
But say it's grounded, yeah.
Yeah. It's not the voltage that kills you. It's the current that kills you. So, safety, everyone. Safety. My favorite shot, though, and it's a brilliant shot that kind of, I think, gets overlooked a little bit. And it's the one where Wes had the DP pull out on all the flies that were gathered by the window.
Oh yeah,
on
the
the
beginning.
windowsill.
Yeah.
What a great shot, because I mean, you're basically setting the precedent that not even a tiny little insect that, you know, I mean, everybody gets flies in their house, and sometimes you have no idea where they come from. The house is sealed up so tight that not even flies, once they get in, they can't get out. And so it's like, if you're watching it for the first time, you're like, well, if a bunch of flies can't get out, and that's basically their life, how the fuck is Fool gonna get out of here? You know. So I thought that's a shot that's always stuck with me. I thought it was pretty cool.
Actually, you know what? One of my favorite scenes too is the introduction to the basement, because it didn't really show too much, but him moving that TV, I was so stressed out and suspended, because I'm just like, when is something gonna happen through that like chicken wire? And it was done so well because it didn't just flash, oh, here they are, look at these creatures, look at these adopted children that are scarred beyond belief. The flashlights and the creepy hand coming through, pulling the TV back to watch it. It was so foreboding, and it was so well done.
There's a part where Fool gets onto the roof, and he's going to dive into the pond. And the father is coming up, or the man is coming up the stairs to get him, because he knows he's there, and Alice saves him. But right before he saves him, I remember being on the edge of my seat while he's firing a shotgun at a little kid on the roof as he's diving off the roof. I remember being on the edge of my seat, and I still think it's a pretty powerful scene.
Oh yeah,
I always like that, and I like what she says to him, which is like, never shoot your gun outside the house.
And he becomes such a little child too to her.
One of the questions I have though about this movie is, how does Fool get away so many times, and then how does he get back into the house a second time so easily?
Well, because she wasn't guarding the door, so all the police didn't see this little kid just wander into the fucking house.
But I find it hard to believe that actually happened, and here's why. These people had their place locked down so tight, and then it took Ving Rhames and a crowbar to get in. You'd think they would have at least cordoned off some of the weaknesses, you know what I mean? Instead, they found time to drain the pond and fill it with broken glass, because they had broken glass just lying around for the pond. They're like, oh, I hadn't gotten to this yet, I'll just do it now. So I just thought that was just a weird kind of goof. I do love the part. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of inconsistencies with the movie though. Like that part where the cops come in. Right before that part, he's running around in the bondage suit, just blowing holes in the walls with a shotgun, and they're walking through that same hallway, and the cops are with him, and there's no bullet holes. You know, they're just like, oh, nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so I thought it was pretty cool that Everett McGill just kind of, he goes from like hunter mode to like all-American dad mode, where he's talking to that one detective. I forget what he says to him, and he's like,
furniture. Oh, they're talking about the furniture.
The furniture, exactly. And now that we're bringing that up, a little sidebar, watching the special features yesterday, everybody involved with that movie said, the people who designed the set should have gotten some sort of award for what they did, because they really brought this movie to life. And I think Brett, you mentioned that the house itself should have been, it was like a character all of its own. And
absolutely.
the set directors, the set designers, they did such a good job. It's just such a weird, strange. It was almost like the Munsters house, but not really like the Munsters house, because there wasn't cobwebs everywhere. But it just felt, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just austere, I guess, in a way. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right word, but I'm gonna go with it anyway.
Well, I mean, and
all the secret passageways though were awesome. Like you gotta climb up into like the vent above the stove. You know?
Yeah,
that was sick.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
And it was believable.
The dog comes out. The dog slide.
Oh yeah, the slide.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love the part where the man is shooting into the chimney when AJ Langer and Brandon James are in the chimney and he's shooting up at them. I thought that was such a funny part. I don't know. That's just me. I think the last few scenes where Wendy Roby is attacking AJ Langer, the mom is attacking Alice. I thought they were pretty incredible. They were extremely well acted, and that's when she's the most terrifying. When she's like running at her with the knife, with the burn it out, and then the people under the stairs revolt, and take her away or whatever. I thought that was such a good. It was such a well acted part. This movie is definitely about is meant to represent the people under stairs are meant to represent the disenfranchised population in the United States in the early 90s, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
And they evoke it literally in the beginning with the ghetto and the landlords that are well off on the other side of town, and then they do it figuratively in the house. So it's not only something that's outside of home, it's also in your home as well. And I thought that was a really good thing. It's one of those movies that alternates between too funny to be scary, and then in the next scene is too scary to be funny.
I agree.
And I think that's what really makes this movie stand out.
I'm definitely gonna agree with you, especially on Roby's parts at the end, but if we're going to talk about the ending, I felt like it was an extended scene in Lord of the Rings. To give an example, I felt like I was ready to fade to black 5 times, and it wouldn't happen. I'm like, oh, well, here's the final confrontation between Daddy, quote unquote, and Fool, and no, oops, he slipped away, and he's
so
gonna
many
go to another
times.
room.
So
many fucking times. And you mentioned this. And I was really annoyed because I felt like the movie could have ended 15 minutes earlier. When it was I'm going back to get her. I'm like, good. I got a solid 12, 15 minutes of pure carnage and action. And what I got was 30 minutes of say your prayers, motherfucker. I'm like, yeah, shoot that motherfucker up. You waited 15 seconds to shoot him and let him slowly move to the door so he can activate the stairs to turn into a slide, which fucking happens because it's already happened to you twice. And I'm just like, okay, this is just going on and on. I want to see these people die. Just fucking kill them. I want to have that satisfaction. I felt like the ending was extensively drawn out, unfortunately.
I think the only way that it could have been that long and been better, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, is if he set traps like fucking Home Alone or something.
Yes.
You know what
yes.
I mean? Where they're running through it, gone. But he just is he just pops out and then runs away, and then pops out and he just keeps getting away.
There's no plan.
They would have been better off if they had caught him. And then started to get ready to carve him up or something, and then the people under the stairs revolt. You know what I mean? All at the same time, the people outside of the house are revolting. That would have been a really awesome scene. I agree with you 100%. I think that's one of the parts where I think it's one of the weaknesses of the film. Overall, the film is strong, but that probably could have cut between 10 minutes. I'd say between 8 and 10 minutes out of that, and it would have been probably a little bit better.
I agree.
Fool's sister was in Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Really?
The Dream Child. Yeah. I was trying to figure out. I spent a majority of the movie trying to figure out what she was in, and it was Nightmare 5. So, good. I sometimes I play a game with myself where I try not to look at my phone until the movie's over, but I lost the game.
I lose every time.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. We are dedicated to bringing you the show across your favorite medium. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Please send all suggestions to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
We got through this a little quick, but that's okay, because our last episode was very long.
Yes, it was.
But that's okay. So let's go round table. Bub.
I give it a 4.5 stars.
Nice.
Definitely, it's a strong movie. I like all like the brutal scenes. And some of the people under the stairs, they kind of reminded me of Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. They got the long hair. They're running around.
The flannel shirts.
Yeah. Like they look like they belong to Megadeth, and I like that. And then it ended with an old school rap song, and I like that too.
Mr. Brett.
Well, I give it a 4 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and actually, I could tell I had a huge smile on my face the entire time I was watching the movie. I was so invested. The ending, as I discussed, really left a sour taste in my mouth, and the like Nazi-ish like riches that he had in a locked room behind where he kept the people he never dealt with, and then the dynamite like wants to be Home Alone thing with how he jammed coins into a candles, and all the money flying out across the world. I know it was trying to prove a point. It just didn't fit the whole movie. The whole subdivision of classes was very subconscious in the movie, which I liked. And then they just bursted it wide open with a crowd of people showing up with no police, just fucking 150 people out on the street, and no one seems to notice. I felt like the ending really left a sour taste in my mouth, so that's why I give it a 4 out of 5. And if we had a cut down scene towards the ending, I would probably give it a 4.5.
I'm at a 4 too. 4 out of 5 is my number. It's got a special place in my heart because it is. I did see it at a very young age, and it's always stuck with me, and it's always been a favorite of mine to watch. There's so many good one-liners in it. The acting is very, very good. Everybody does a good job. Even Ving Rhames, who's classically known to not be such a great actor, he does a very good job. Everybody does fine. One of the questions I've always kind of asked myself, though, is what happens to the people under the stairs? Now that they're out, where do they go?
I asked myself the same question. They're these poor people that have just had appendages cut off, and they're just like, I'm free. I mean, are they going to get a job at the bank?
Would you hire them?
I mean, I would
give them a job.
I would
give the people under the stairs a fucking job, dude.
I would fucking hire them in a heartbeat. I would hire them instantaneously. What a great teller system that would be. No small talk. Just take the money, give them the money back, and you know what? You get to eat. Great.
I'd hire Roach. He seems like he'd be good. He'd be like a good, like cable repairman, because he could get around in between the walls, and he's pretty friendly. So Roach would be good.
Roach would be really good. He'd be really good designing like theme parks.
Yeah, dude, he'd be a great architect because he knows the ins and outs, And
he likes kids. He's good with kids.
He's good with kids.
He doesn't talk back to them.
You know what is good? What is fucking awesome though is we don't know what happens to the people under the stairs. They could have made a fucking sequel, and it probably would have been terrible, and they didn't do it. So kudos for them to just letting us use our imaginations to hire the people under the stairs to work at Whole Foods and at the cable company. Because that's fine. Like,
guess who's staying up tonight writing fan fiction?
How great! That would be so funny. Like the people under the stairs and their jobs and like what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like one of them makes his way down to Florida, and what if one of them had like a Forrest Gump type story?
Or like it's like
goes throughout the history of the 90s.
Or it's like Ernest movies. It's like the people under stairs fix the deficit. Like all these different random things that they all end up being geniuses. And then Ernest goes to Cuba and solves the missile crisis. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be up all night writing.
Such a good movie. So yeah, that's pretty. The last two movies we've done, we've all kind of been very close as far as our ratings.
Yeah.
The last time we were really far apart was Shocker, because we all were about a point apart each. So that's pretty good. We're all into the same things. So this is it. Like I said in the beginning, I think I speak for all three of us when we miss Wes Craven, and he definitely touched our lives. He made amazing, scary movies that kept us awake at night, and gave us nightmares, and had characters that lived with us for a really long time. And then as we got older, we realized that there were underlying subconscious themes for us to discover, and it made us love those movies all over again. So it's been a year now since he's passed, but we miss him, and he did a wonderful job. And as he wanted on his tombstone, which I'm sure he has, I haven't seen it, but all he wanted it to say was, "Rest in peace, filmmaker, and don't go to sleep." So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for listening. Next week, we're going to be talking about two films. Each of them is part one of a franchise. Get ready for Puppet Master and Demonic Toys. The Bride of Bloodbath is going to take us away.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Written and hosted by Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bub. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, as well as @BloodGutsBluray on Twitter, @BloodGutsandBluray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandbluray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.